I want to thank everyone for all their services and goodwill. Love they've sent to us.
Ozzy forever!
Sharon, we love you!
They called her the Rock's Queen, the woman who stood beside one of the wildest frontmen in music history and somehow held everything together. Sharon Osbourne was never just the wife of Ozzy Osbourne. She was his manager, his protector, his business mastermind. And for decades, the beating heart of family the world couldn't look away from. But behind the cameras, behind the sharp-witted and fiery comebacks that made her a household name,
and her father were managing Black Sabbath, and when I got fired from Black Sabbath, I thought I was going to get the boot back to England. And to my astonishment, Sharon come round to my hotel and said that they'd got rid of Black Sabbath and they wanted to keep me on, and I was like flabbergasted. And then I fell in love. What really first attracted me to my wife was her laugh. She's got such a great laugh.
I'm going to piss myself.
But I need more up here.
Why? If you get a boob job, I'll never talk to you again.
I'm Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. Rock and roll!
Ozzy changed everything.
Ozzy Osbourne.
Sharon's life hasn't just been a tale of success and fame. It has been a tragedy wrapped in resilience, a story of betrayal, health battles, unimaginable grief, and the crushing weight of living in the shadow of both rock and reality television. And if you think you know the whole truth about Sharon Osbourne, you're about to discover that we've only scratched the surface. This is the tragedy of Sharon Osbourne, and it's beyond heartbreaking. To understand Sharon's pain, you have to go back to the beginning. Long before she became Mrs. Osbourne, long before the Osbournes reality show turned her into a global celebrity in her own right, Sharon was born into chaos. Her father, Don Arden, was one of the most feared and ruthless figures in the music industry. They called him the Al Capone of pop because he was notorious for intimidation tactics, violence, and controlling artists with an iron fist. Growing up in that environment wasn't glamorous. It was traumatic.
Ozzy is so drunk. He's so drunk. So we're in the back there, and he's at the laboratory mid plane, and it's someone else is in there, and he's like, Sharon, and she like, oh, Ozzy, and he pees his pants right there in the aisle. I'm like, holy crap. Ozzy peed his pants. Sharon. So this was a wild trip.
Is the most irresistible madman you will ever meet in your life.
One last thing. If you have any drugs or any alcohol, give me some.
Think you know the Prince of Darkness? Guess again.
I don't know what music would be like if it weren't for the influence of Ozzy. Ozzy changed everything.
Void.
I'm Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. Rock and roll!
He is the most irresistible madman you will ever meet in your life.
Sharon has admitted that her father was abusive, both physically and emotionally. She learned early what it meant to survive, to fight, and protect herself in a world where power meant everything and kindness meant weakness. It was under this brutal upbringing that Sharon first crossed paths with Ozzy Osbourne, the man who would change her life forever. Ozzy, freshly fired from Black Sabbath in 1979 due to spiraling drug and alcohol abuse, was seen as a washed-up addict with no future. Most of the industry had given up on him, but Sharon saw something different. She believed in him when nobody else did, against her father's wishes.
Ozzy, early on in his career, while he sold millions of albums, he got nothing because he had a bad business deal with your father.
That's right.
You don't even speak to your father anymore.
Not for 20 years.
She took him on as a solo artist, managing his career, helping him launch what would become one of the most successful comebacks in rock history. And soon, the professional relationship turned into a personal one. By 1982, Sharon and Ozzy were married. But if you think their life together was some rock and roll fairy tale, think again.
How much is your father worth? Because he's got...
Yeah, then we...
No, I think he's worth nothing. He spent it all.
He did.
Yeah.
And you mean little Jack here never gets to see his grandfather?
It was chaos. Ozzy was drowning in addiction, and Sharon, barely in her 20s, was forced to manage not only his career, but also his self-destruction. She bailed him out of trouble. She picked him up when he was passed out. She endured public humiliation, violent episodes, and even moments of life-threatening abuse. In one of the darkest chapters of their marriage, Ozzy, in a drug-fueled haze, attempted to strangle Sharon in 1989. She pressed charges, but she also stayed, because Sharon's love for Ozzy was always matched by her belief that he could recover, that their family was worth fighting for. And fight she did. Through the 1980s and 1990s, Sharon built Ozzy's solo career into a juggernaut. She organized tours, negotiated deals, and even created the Ozfest Music Festival, which became a cultural phenomenon.
Why did you decide to make tickets free for Ozfest?
Ask my wife, she's nuts. It's free to get in, but you got to pay to get out.
The concert line started at 3 o'clock this morning.
We rock, man! Yeah!
Fans saw Ozzy as the Prince of Darkness. But behind the scenes, Sharon was a queen who kept the empire standing. Without her, Ozzy's career would likely have crumbled. But the cost of that empire was steep, and Sharon paid in ways most people never saw. By the early 2000s, the Osbourne family was thrust into a new spotlight, reality television. The Osbournes, which premiered on MTV in 2002, was a cultural reset. Before the Kardashians, before modern reality TV dynasties, there was Sharon, Ozzy, Jack, and Kelly. The show made them global stars.
What are you eating, Moo?
Toast with banana.
Hi, guys, I'm Ozzy.
Sharon became known for her sharp tongue, her quick wit, and her fierce maternal instincts. Fans loved her. She was relatable yet outrageous. The matriarch of chaos who somehow made dysfunction look entertaining. But the cameras didn't capture everything. For Sharon, reality TV fame came with a price. Her children struggled with addiction, depression, and the crushing pressure of growing up in the public eye. Sharon herself became a lightning rod for criticism, mocked for her looks, scrutinized for her marriage, and dissected for every decision she made. And while the world laughed at the family's dysfunction, Sharon carried the burden of keeping them together. But the greatest tragedies of Sharon's life came not from television or tabloids, but from battles with her own body. In 2002, during the height of the Osbournes, Sharon was diagnosed with colon cancer. She underwent surgery and grueling chemotherapy while still filming the show. Millions of viewers watched as she tried to put on a brave face, but behind the scenes, she was terrified. She survived, but the scars ran deep. The disease left her body weakened, and the fear of recurrence haunted her for years. As if cancer wasn't enough, Sharon later revealed she carries a genetic mutation that puts her at high risk of developing breast cancer. In 2012, she made the agonizing decision to undergo a double mastectomy as a preventative measure. Imagine that. Choosing to remove both breasts, not because you had cancer, but because you wanted to live long enough for your children and grandchildren. Sharon was brutally honest about it, telling fans she didn't want to live in fear. She didn't want to wait for cancer to come back. But the toll of those surgeries, physically, emotionally, psychologically, was staggering. And yet, even with all of that, Sharon's tragedies weren't over. In 2016, after more than 3 decades of marriage, her world was rocked again. News broke that Ozzy had been unfaithful, involved in a 4-year affair with a hairstylist. For Sharon, who had endured so much to stand by his side, it was the ultimate betrayal. She left him, and for a while, it seemed like the Osbourne marriage was over. She later said it was the lowest point of her life, admitting she felt humiliated, broken, and unsure she could ever trust again. And yet, after months apart, after therapy and public apologies, Sharon forgave Ozzy. They reconciled, but forgiveness didn't erase the scars. The affair was another wound layered onto decades of heartbreak. Then came Ozzy's health decline. The man Sharon had built her life around, the man she had saved time and time again, was now fading before her eyes. In 2019, Ozzy revealed he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Suddenly, Sharon was not just a wife or manager. She was a caretaker, and the weight of that role crushed her. She admitted she cried every day, watching the love of her life suffer from a disease she couldn't fix. For a woman who had built her entire existence around controlling chaos, this was chaos she couldn't control. And while she battled private heartbreak, Sharon was also facing public crucifixion. In 2021, she was forced off the talk, the daytime show she had co-hosted for over a decade, after a scandal erupted surrounding her defense of Piers Morgan. The backlash was swift and brutal. Sharon was labeled racist, her reputation shredded, her career nearly destroyed. She insisted she was unfairly targeted, abandoned by colleagues she considered friends. For Sharon, it was yet another betrayal, another humiliation to add to her already heavy list of wounds. But perhaps the cruelest tragedy of all is the way Sharon's pain is often dismissed. Because she's outspoken, because she's fiery, because she's strong, people forget that she's also human. They forget the childhood abuse, the cancer battles, the surgeries, the infidelity, the betrayals, the endless fight to keep her family alive and together. They forget that behind a sharp tongue is a woman who has endured more heartbreak than most people could ever imagine. And yet, through it all, Sharon Osbourne has survived. That's what makes her story both heartbreaking and inspiring. She has been beaten down by life again and again, but she gets back up. She has been betrayed, humiliated, and mocked, but she refuses to disappear. She has faced cancer, surgeries, scandals, and a husband decline, and still, she shows up. Still, she fights. Still, she endures. But let's be clear, survival doesn't erase tragedy. It doesn't erase the trauma of a violent childhood. It doesn't erase the pain of watching your children suffer. It doesn't erase the scars of cancer or the humiliation of betrayal. Sharon Osbourne may be one of the strongest women in entertainment, but her strength has been forged in suffering, and that is what makes her story so profoundly heartbreaking. So, the next time you see Sharon Osbourne on TV, smiling, cracking jokes, or throwing out one-liners, remember the truth. Remember the battles she's fought. Remember the tragedies she's endured. Because behind the laughter is a woman who has lived through hell and somehow found the strength to keep going. And that strength, that resilience, is both inspiring and devastating. The tragedy of Sharon Osbourne isn't just that she has suffered so much. It's that she has suffered it all in public, under the glare of cameras, with the world watching. And that makes her heartbreak not just personal, but universal. Because when we see Sharon Osbourne, we don't just see a celebrity. We see survival. We see pain. We see tragedy. And we see the cost of living a life that looks glamorous on the outside, but is shattering on the inside. This is Sharon Osbourne's story, and it is beyond heartbreaking. But if you thought Sharon's heartbreak ended there, you'd be wrong. Because her story is one of relentless waves of pain, each one crashing harder than the last. To truly understand the depth of her tragedy, we need to go deeper into the moments most people forget, the betrayals behind the scenes, the feuds that destroyed friendships, the illnesses that nearly took her life, and the scars that never healed, even when the cameras stopped rolling. Let's start with her public battles. Sharon Osbourne has never been one to stay silent. Her sharp tongue made her a fan favorite, but also made her enemies, and some of those feuds would come back to haunt her. Take her time on the X Factor in the UK, where she clashed repeatedly with Simon Cowell. Sharon accused Cowell of manipulating the show, favoring certain contestants, and undermining her authority as a judge. She was outspoken, fiery, and unapologetic. But behind the scenes, that candor cost her. She was pushed aside, replaced, and humiliated. To the public, it looked like just another reality TV spat. To Sharon, it was a betrayal. She had poured her heart into the show, mentoring young artists, believing in their dreams. And suddenly, she was disposable. Another scar on a heart already heavy with pain. Then came America's Got Talent. Sharon was one of the longest-serving judges, beloved by fans for her honesty and humor. But in 2012, she abruptly quit. Why? Because she discovered that NBC had allegedly discriminated against her son, Jack, after his diagnosis with multiple sclerosis. Jack, who had been hired for a show with the network, was suddenly dropped when his illness became public. For Sharon, it was a line she couldn't cross. She chose her son over her career. She walked away, even though it cost her millions and a platform she loved. She later admitted it broke her heart, not just because she lost a job, but because once again, her family was targeted, and she was powerless to stop it. And then there was the talk. For over a decade, Sharon was a fiery centerpiece of CBS's daytime show. Viewers loved her bluntness, her humor, her willingness to say what others wouldn't. But in 2021, everything came crashing down. After defending her longtime friend Piers Morgan, who had criticized Meghan Markle, Sharon found herself at the center of a media storm. Her co-host turned on her live on air, accusing her of racism and insensitivity. Sharon was blindsided. She broke down in tears. And within weeks, she was gone, forced out, labeled, and humiliated. For Sharon, it wasn't just the loss of a job. It was the loss of a reputation she had built for decades. She later said she felt set up, betrayed by people she had trusted. Once again, she was a villain in a story she didn't write. But Sharon's tragedies weren't confined to studios and stages. The deepest wounds were always at home. Her children, Jack, Kelly, and Amy, each carried their own battles, and Sharon carried them too. Jack's multiple sclerosis diagnosis in 2012 was devastating. As a mother, Sharon wanted to protect him, to shield him from pain, but MS is relentless. She watched as her son faced fatigue, vision loss, and the terrifying unpredictability of the disease. She stood by him, but every symptom he suffered was another dagger in her heart. Kelly, too, struggled. Her battles with addiction, body image, and mental health played out in public, often cruelly mocked by tabloids. Sharon fought for her, defended her, but she couldn't take away the pain. And then there was Amy, the daughter who refused to be part of the Osbournes reality show, Choosing a life out of the spotlight, Amy moved out of the family home at 16 to escape the chaos of filming. Sharon has admitted that this broke her. Imagine being a mother whose child chooses to leave, not because of you, but because of the circus your family has become. That wound never truly healed. And while she carried the weight of her children's struggles, Sharon was fighting her own health battles in silence. Most fans know about her colon cancer in 2002 and her preventative double mastectomy in 2012. But what they don't know is how close she came to death on multiple occasions. In 2002, after her cancer surgery, she contracted a dangerous infection that nearly killed her. In 2004, she collapsed from exhaustion, her body ravaged by years of stress surgeries and nonstop work. In 2018, she revealed she had undergone multiple spinal surgeries after a fall that left her in excruciating pain. And in 2022, she was hospitalized again after collapsing on set while filming a new project. For Sharon, survival has never been guaranteed. Each year, each appearance, has been a battle against her own failing body. But perhaps the most heartbreaking tragedy of all has been Sharon's love story with Ozzy. To outsiders, it looked like a rock and roll romance. In reality, it was a saga of addiction, abuse, betrayal, and codependency. Sharon has admitted that she often felt more like a mother than a wife, constantly cleaning up Ozzy's messes, rescuing him from overdoses, and forgiving him for betrayals that would have ended most marriages. The 1989 strangulation attempt, the affairs, the constant relapses, any one of these would have destroyed another couple. But Sharon stayed. She always stayed. Why? Because she believed in love, in family, in the possibility of redemption. But that choice came with a cost, a lifetime of heartbreak. And now, as Ozzy's health declines from Parkinson's and other illnesses, Sharon is facing the final chapter of that tragedy. She has admitted that watching Ozzy suffer is unbearable. She has admitted that she cries every day. And she has admitted that she is terrified of what will happen when he is gone. After all, Sharon's entire life has been built around him. Her career, her fame, her identity, all tied to Ozzy. What happens when a man she fought for, sacrificed for, suffered for, is no longer there? That question haunts her. And it adds another layer to her tragedy, the fear of becoming truly alone. But Sharon's heartbreak doesn't stop with family and health. Her professional reputation has also been scarred by betrayal. Friends she trusted turned on her. Networks abandoned her. Industry colleagues mocked her. Each time, Sharon picked herself up. Each time, she fought back. But each time, another piece of her heart broke. And the world rarely noticed. Because Sharon is strong. Sharon is tough. Sharon is loud. And people mistake that loudness for invincibility. But here's the truth. Sharon Osbourne is not invincible. She is a woman who has been through hell again and again and somehow survived. She has faced abuse from her father, violence from her husband, betrayal from her industry, illness in her own body, and suffering in her children. And yet, she is still here, still standing, still fighting. That resilience is inspiring, but it is also tragic, because no one should have to endure that much pain just to be seen as strong. And this is why Sharon's story is beyond heartbreaking. It's not just about the tragedies themselves. It's about the fact that she has had to endure them all in public, with the world watching, judging, mocking, and dissecting every move. It's about the fact that her strength has become her curse, that people forget she is human, forget she bleeds, forget she cries, forget she breaks.